are familiar in Brazil, most of the Australian or technology companies in the mining industry, they start their business in Chile. We don't know why, but it's a fact. So Phibion has started the same way. You are in Chile as the first market in Latin America, and then Peru, and then Brazil. So can you explain briefly how your technology advanced in the Chilean market?
Yes, thank you, Joseph, for that question. So I actually want to correct you because your question and your assumption is wrong. So
Okay.
For Phibion, our first expansion into South America was actually Brazil. So we signed our first deal with MRN in the Amazon just before COVID. And we delivered 2 mudmasters to them to help them manage their tailings. And the reason why we started in Brazil is because the Phibion track record is very, very strong in bauxite aluminium. And, South 32 is our customer in Australia, and they also have ownership in MRN. And so it was a very easy decision for MRN to get involved with our technology. It was comfortable for us. We knew the mineralogy. And so we started to sell only 2 machines to them. So quite recently, we've expanded our contract in MRN to be a 5-year contract. And very soon they will be operating with 6 of our mudmasters. So our first expansion into South America was definitely Brazil. We now have a second customer in Brazil, and as we are speaking, we're negotiating a contract with a 3rd customer in Brazil. So Brazil is going really, really well for us. And the reason why we decided to go to Chile, and I suppose many other Australian technology companies do, is because Chile, like Australia, is a mining country, and a lot of its economy revolves around mining. So that's why Australian METS companies often jump into Chile and then try and make it work as a how would I say, a springboard for South America. And if you look at our solution, it does make a lot of sense to be in Chile because 46% of the world's tailings come from copper. Another 26% of the business, 26% of tailings in the world come from gold. So between the gold and the copper market, you've got a great amount of tailings in the world. And so because Chile is copper, Chile was just a natural place for us to be. We have to be in Chile, we have to serve copper. It is, what we do. So our expansion in Chile started with 3 customers as trials. And those trials, some of them are coming to an end now, and the results are really, really positive.
Okay, so after this time lapse of operations in Brazil and Chile, can we say that this accelerated mechanical consolidation process is a real breakthrough for tailing management?
Yes, I suppose there are many ways to do tailings management, but the key method for looking at managing tailings successfully in the modern era is really to dewater the tailings as quickly as possible. So if you look at accelerated mechanical consolidation, which we call AMC, it basically means using a tool to mechanically extract the water from the tailings. And so when that happens, you automatically compress the tailings, because when the water is taken out of it, the only thing that is left is the mud. And so obviously you're getting compactation. So if you think about how miners did this, in recent history, is miners would pump tailings into their dams and leave it there for a natural process. And it could take years and years, like I'm talking 10, 15 years for the water to either drain out, evaporate out, and come to some sort of consolidation. So our process is called accelerated mechanical consolidation, because what we do is we accelerate the process. So instead of waiting years and years, you can now wait months and then get a great result. And so we dewater the tailings, the water comes out, flows away, gets pumped away, gets reused, and the volume of the tailings go down. And so what you get is you get a tailings dam where you've got quick extraction of water with more volume available. So in Brazil specifically, we've shown that works really, really successfully at MRN, up to a point where they now have built a new tailings dam, and the process of depositing the tailings that they will be using is actually modeled and based on how we ask them to operate. So we work together as a team in terms of how it's deposited, so we get a really, really quick result in dewatering the tailings very, very quickly and leaving them with a solid base where they can put, low pressure doses or whatever they want on the tailings, where people will normally not even, attempt to go onto tailings. This means you can monitor it, you can sample it, you can actually know what's happening in your tailings now, because we are on the tailings. Previously, nobody would even dare go on the tailings. So yeah, I think the process has proved itself. We have many other case studies in Australia and Jamaica, where we've helped our customers where they needed to expand their tailings, or they needed to lift the wall or build another dam, which is millions and millions of dollars of cost. And so once they got involved with us, we helped them to reuse that volume or delay the build of a dam with many, many years. So the technology is really now proving itself, yes.
As you are aware, the other technology that miners, big mines and medium-sized mines in Brazil of iron ore, they are starting to filter their tailings.
That's right.
And to dry stacking and reuse the water. But
That's
it
right.
seems that filtering is a very capital intensive process.
That's true. Yeah, so I think we look at ourselves as, a new technology in tailings management, and maybe a disruptive technology, because if I can just look at those two things you just mentioned, yes, they are capital intensive, and they're also not quick to build. So if a customer decides today that this is something they want to do, they need to get capital. So access to capital and approval for capital can take long. And then once they have the capital approved, then they have to build these filtration plants or, presses and all these sorts of things, which also takes time. And then once you start operating them, they're also quite expensive to operate. So it takes a lot of manpower and ongoing maintenance and service costs to keep it going. So if you look at that as a technology, it's a great technology. It is potentially the future. The question is, what do miners do with tailings that are in the ground today? Are they going to wait 15 years for it to consolidate and the water to go out? What are they going to do? And so, instead of employing those technologies, you can employ the Phibion solution today, and we can start working with you in the way you deposit. And basically, from day one that we get there, we start working on this process, and within months you see results. The price for engaging Phibion is very, very little if you compare it to all the capital intensity of building, a filter press or something to that effect. Mm-hmm. So there's two things here. The one is the relative compared cost, and the next thing is in situ tailings. What do you do with the tailings you've got already? We are working with customers that have tailings dams that are 6,000 hectares big. They can't dig that up and put that through a press. Okay, so what do you do with those things? You have to manage it in some way. So there are also going to be customers that will never be able to afford the capital to build these sorts of technologies that's on the horizon. And so they are maybe the tier 2s or the tier 3s. And so they will look at us for a solution rather than saying, let's employ millions and millions of dollars to put into the press.
So can we make a rough comparison? For instance, the difference in capital cost would be something like 1 to 3 or 1 to 5?
Yeah, it's about 1 to 5. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
I think it's a very practical comparison for a mining company to understand. Yeah?
Yes, and from our perspective, Joseph, it's not which one is better. It is which one fits the purpose for the customer. You know, that's really, it's a positioning thing in the market. We have a place where we fit. There's a place where filter presses fit.
And have you, has Phibion started to work with some iron ore operation?
At this point in time, we have not done iron ore yet. So we are experienced in bauxite, we're experienced in zinc, we are experienced in rare earths, and now in copper as well. And we potentially think of our next markets to be gold and iron ore. Yes. So we haven't done it yet, but we are on our way.
I think you recall we run a cover in 2022 of your mud monster. It's okay. So I think we maybe is our last question. Maybe is from a layman, myself, a journalist. But looking at your machine, it seems that it's a quite has how we say a similar mechanical characteristic of crawler tractor.
Yes.
Except, of course, the devices used to process the tailings. So, since crawler tractors are already manufactured in Brazil, have you ever imagined in some time maybe at least manufacture part of your equipment here?
Yes. So it has already, in fact, happened. So.
Oh, good.
Yes. So we are very aware of the fact that when we import into Brazil from Australia, you know, that there's all sorts of taxes involved. And we know that for our customer, it could mean, 40% more expensive equipment just because it's imported. And so what we have done is we have actually already engaged with some manufacturers to build some parts for us already. And so what we started with was replacement parts. So we have replacement parts that are unique, that you can't buy anywhere, that needs to be manufactured. And about a year ago, we engaged somebody to help us manufacture scrolls, the Archimedes screws that you see. We engaged them to manufacture a set for us to see what the cost would be, what the quality would be, and how we could potentially use that in the future. So we are very aware of the fact that the better local content we have, and that means, staff and selling and maintaining and manufacturing, the more we do locally, the better. But you also need to understand there's a point of critical mass that we have to reach in the country to make it worthwhile for us to manufacture as well. So yes, I'll talk to Marco and see if we can work out the timing so that we can deliver a case study. That would be a good idea.
Okay, good. Jacques, so I think you already know the Brazilian market and its full potential. So I wish you a lot of success to expand your business.
Thank you very much, Joseph. It's been good talking to you, and we're looking forward to the growth. And